Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mind, Your Reality, Your Results, a weekly live show where I talk to experts in the field of mindset so you can change your mindset to get the amazing results you want. I am so pleased today to be welcoming Mathew. Mathew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Leah. I appreciate it.
If you haven't met me before, my name is Leah Fink. I'm the owner and founder of All Thrive, where we help save people from the pain of damaged relationships. I would love to chat with you if you ever want to connect. We also love connecting with you through the show, as we have Mathew here as a subject expert. If you have questions about marketing or any of the things that we're talking about today or any comments, please feel free to toss them in the comment box and we can get back to them. Even if you are watching this after the show, feel free to put them in there and then we can comment after so you can still take advantage of Mathew's expertise. So to start off, Mathew, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background that brought you to marketing?
So I've spent the majority of my career in sales, business development, B2B sales, outside sales, and just building holistic sales programs from functionality to design, like whole processes. And that's actually how I started at Bubble Up. I was brought in to help with their outbound calling efforts and kind of design the sales process. So that was kind of where I started. And then since the year that I've been here, I've learned oodles of knowledge in the marketing space. I'm very fortunate to have Jason and Crystal as mentors, and Jason's been in the industry for over 20 years, and Crystal has like 17 different degrees. I mean, she has a couple, but so wealth of knowledge here for sure.
Amazing. And so when we were having a discussion before, I really like this term that you used. And so that's what we were bringing to our title today. So you talked about marketing unicorns. Do you want to define that for the audience so they know what the heck we're talking about?
So to give an idea, the marketing unicorns, one of the things that we hear kind of sometimes is like, oh, well, that's nary fairy. And, it all sounds nice when you talk about it. But, in practice, it's very hard or it hasn't worked for us. We've hired marketing agencies for X, Y, Z, and we never really got what we expected. So the term marketing unicorn is someone basically that just promises you the world and then you never get delivered and you're stuck there wondering, oh, well, how can they promise all of these lovely things and then not deliver on any of them? So that's kind of what a marketing unicorn is. in that, it's imaginative and they're not very realistic on, marketing is it's a whole piece, right? It's not just, what it brings leads into your business. It's how you present your business and then how you market the services and skills that you provide so that you can differentiate yourself from other products, or else you kind of get stuck in this price game where you're only really competing on price or you're only competing on value. You're not really competing because people just know about you and want to come to you. So marketing is more of an entire process, like a culture change. So it's like the mindset of your business. It's kind of how I see that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that probably is a good mindset for people to take on, that it's not just someone you pay to post a couple things on social media. It's a full experience.
And don't even get me started on that.
Well, so this is the challenge, though, especially maybe solopreneurs who are newer coming into the business, or even businesses that have finally gotten to that point where they're like, oh, thank God, I can take some of the pressure off. I have the money to hire someone to market. It's a big decision. There's a lot of trust there. Like you said, maybe someone's promising and they have some great reviews and they're saying, yeah, we'll give you the world, just everything you ever want. Clients will flock to you. How do you create that trust, or what do you recommend as people are going through that process to start off?
So I think a huge thing is understanding that there's lots of great agencies out there and there's a ton of great marketers and everyone kind of has their own advice. When it comes to hiring an agency, I think you need to look for a partner. Someone that is really it's not like hey, I'm going to try this for the next 3 months. And if I don't get immediate results, it's game over. The person that really runs your marketing has to kind of understand your customers, your mindset, and how you sell. So one of the things that we do at Bubble Up is we always start with a strategy. It's our biggest key point of the whole process. And we actually, we get our head strategists to kind of She's the one that manages all the teams, so that she kind of has an idea of, you know, who the business owner is, what the business owner wants to achieve, and what the results are expected out of that. So that everyone's kind of on, like, you know, if someone comes to us and they're like, hey, we have this budget, but we want, you know, to become Apple, we manage that expectation to be like, okay, well, you can't just be Apple with, you know, $500. It's not realistic. But really coming into it with expectations and understanding, like, a lot of the insights that you'll receive from a marketer will be, you know, you really want to ask the questions, okay, like, what's your experience in my industry? Or what's it in, like, you know, a parallel industry, or how do you get results for your business? And do those results line up with your sales team and how your sales team sells and delivers the product? Because sometimes what happens with marketing is they promise these great ideas, and just the business itself promises these ideas, and then sales, you know, has a different agenda, and operations has a different way of delivering it. So then you across your customer journey, you don't have the same experience that you expected when you came in, and then when you left, and then that makes it harder to retain customers. And I think everyone nowadays knows that retention is really important, because the cost of acquisition just keeps going up.
Totally. So I'm wondering, kind of in that theme as well, because you're talking about strategizing, hopefully maybe people are coming to you, maybe if people are coming to you, maybe and they're not first year of business, they've been doing this for a while, they have a strategy that's working. Do you often find that it's something, as they're growing, you need to kind of go on a very different path? Or is it often that people's strategies that they're coming in with are just being, you know, tweaked and adapted and enhanced?
So that's kind of more what it is, right? So every business owner has a strategy that's like, hey, this is kind of what's working. This is where I want to go. Now, how do we take all of the information that's being processed right now on the internet, and how do we make it a reality? Because sometimes, you know, when you draw it up, you're not thinking about all of the other tangibles or tangible solutions that are kind of available to you. You're just like, this is how I would like the structure of my business. And then what Crystal does is she kind of says, okay, well, this is also what I see in your business. And sometimes when you've been in business for 5-10 years, you're really ingrained in what you've been doing, right? Everything's kind of habitual, especially if you're doing, you know, okay. And you're like, you know, I tried something like that similar, but maybe it's totally different now because technology has changed or dramatically improved.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, just like aligning your strategy with a marketing strategy and marketing plan, and then combining the two knowledge. Because one of our big things at Bubble Up is come with curiosity, because we know, you know, we're not the experts in your industry and we never will be. But as long as we can be the experts in our industry, we can align what that looks like for you, as long as you come to the table with all of that knowledge, right? And all of that expertise, then we can kind of turn it around with our expertise and give you the kind of results that you're looking for. And I think that's the next piece in Marketing Unicorn is going with someone that's result based, and instead of comments or reviews, it's like, okay, what do their dashboards look like? How many case studies do they have of actual businesses that are, you know, still succeeding to this day? Or another really good question to ask is, you know, what's your average lifetime span of a customer? So, you know, if they are like, oh yeah, we have 3 customers that have been with us for a year, that's a red flag. You want to make sure that they have some clients that have been, you know, long term and have had some successes over a variety of number of years, and they're not just being like, hey, like, we're really good at TikTok.
Totally. So it's so that's one really great question, kind of, who are your clients? How have they been succeeding? How long have you had them? What are some other questions you could ask someone when you're starting to consider that relationship?
Another good question to ask is like, and this is more from a business owner standpoint before you even start talking to, is what is your close rate? Like, what is your lead to cash? So when you guys get a lead right now, how long does it take to turn into a sale? And what does that process look like? Because, you know, if you have, say, like 10, 15, 20% close rate, you're probably not looking for marketing as much as you also need maybe some sales assistance and maybe developing a process that you can start converting leads at higher volume, so that when you do turn on marketing, now you can have like some sort of ROI basis on like, okay, if my marketing team can send me 10 leads a month, I know I can close 5. Then it's also not so risky to take that leap, right? When it takes that plunge into marketing, you're like, okay, well, this is kind of what I can expect. And then, what is the cost per client? So that you kind of have to take, you got to do that over like six months to a year to really know, like, okay, it costs me X to gain this number of clients, and this is how I can kind of move forward through that. Because at the end of the day, the only reason we all spend money on marketing is to get sales, right?
Yep, pretty much.
So yeah, big results focused, and kind of being able to know like, hey, they're going to be tracking this for me. There's a place where they're going to store the leads, or some type of CRM system that we're going to be utilizing. Because I think that those are some of the things that really need to be set up in beforehand, so that what you're getting when you market.
Totally. When I like what you said too about maybe differentiating between the skillfulness or the result that you get from the marketing versus maybe your skillfulness in sales as well. That it's great if someone's sending you 20 leads a week, but if you only close one of them, where does that bounce out? And then maybe does that ever have to do though too with how qualified the leads are? Like, are there marketers that send 5 million leads, but ultimately none of them actually want what you're selling?
And so those are usually like the unicorn leads that I was discussing, where it's and really that comes down to knowing the target market, right? And that's why, again, coming back to the strategy piece, is it's like, your target market better than any agency is going to know it. You have the historical data with, these are the type of people that buy. And even if you don't know it yet or haven't utilized or tapped into that, it's something that's available to you. To kind of look in and look back and say, okay, well, we sell a lot to the, male demographic between 30 and 35, but on the female side of thing, it's older females, and it's, 40 to 50. And just kind of mapping that out to see like, okay, this is where we really have success. And once you narrow in on that, then your marketing team should be focused on finding those demographics for you, and not just casting this wide net and being like, anyone that buys a furnace, I want to talk to them. Because furnaces is kind of a good example, because there's so many different organizations out there, and it really depends on what you're looking for. Like, if you're just looking for the cheapest price on the market, that's not a space you really want to be competing in, right? Because then it's always just about price. And then you're taking every lead underneath the sun. But some of those leads, they might be wanting, like service packages. And if your company's not offering a service package, or whatever the kind of offer is that you're attaching to your marketing, really wants to reflect on what those key problems they're trying to solve is. Right. So if you're selling a furnace to someone that, maybe works in HVAC maintenance, he's not going to want a service package or any of those things. And then that also ties back into sales, but it's like, you can segment your audiences so that you're getting the ideal client that you want.
So if we need to, as business owners, have that ideal client already, fairly established or known, does that mean that we should only be looking at hiring marketers once we've been in business enough to really actually have confirmed who that is, not just who we thought it was at the beginning? Or can you hire a marketer right from the get-go if you want to invest that way?
So if you have like some sort of historical data, even if you've interviewed other organizations, there is a certain number of attributes that you can kind of pull from that. Facebook makes it pretty easy with like lookalike audiences and things like that, where you can go in and find other businesses and be like, okay, this is who they market to. They're really successful. So that's definitely something we can do. But I always recommend, putting some thought into it beforehand, so that when you go in to meet an agency or a marketer, you can kind of call them out if they're like, telling you that this is where you think and you're thinking here, but you gotta meet somewhere. And that's again why I think communication and trust is the biggest attribute to hiring any marketer, is really knowing that you can trust the results that they're going to bring to the table. Yeah.
Well, so, and even if it is, getting that historical data, is there a best time in your business development to hire a marketer? Is it at the beginning? Is it 6 months in? It doesn't really matter. I mean, right? Like, how established? What's the ideal?
I would always say, like, you should hire a marketer like as soon as you can afford it. Especially if that's something that you're just in today's day and age, there's so many technical nuances and there's so many things that it's just like it would take you years to learn, where someone's already been practicing. And if your skill set is, mindset coaching, you probably don't want to be sitting around on SEMrush looking up keywords. And that's not something, like, your time is better spent, helping service your clients. And I think, as soon as you're able to kind of outsource that, that is one of the first things I think should be a priority. And really making sure that you do your research on it and know that, the company that you're going with is going to be like a trusted provider for you. And think of it as like a long-term commitment. Like, don't go into it being like, my business is struggling and I'm failing and I have 3 months left, so I'm just gonna try one business and then hope that works. Because it's really one of those things where it's marketing does take time. It does take commitment, and it's always changing. Like, it's always very fluid. Like 5 years ago, there wasn't TikTok. 8 years ago there wasn't Instagram. And those are two platforms that are pretty common today. Google Ads used to be a shell of what it is today. So it's like, just the way things keep changing. You really want to have someone that's actually focused in on that all day, every day. Like, if you had told me, hey, like, I do mindset coaching, but on the weekends I work at Lowe's, I mean, like that, you know what I mean? I'd be like, okay. And that's kind of what it is. Where a lot of people have like this idea of like, okay, well, I'm good at marketing, I spend a couple hours a week on it. I want to do some freelance stuff. But like, there's a lot of guys out there that this is all they do. They live, breathe keywords and analysis and data charts and stuff like that. So it's like, those are the kind of guys you want in your corner, I guess.
Cool. And so with this, if someone's watching this and they tuned in and they're thinking to themselves, well, this is great, I didn't know this 10 months ago or however long ago, and I hired my marketing group and I'm not happy with the results, are there things they can do still within that? Or what would you suggest for someone who's already in a situation that they're now questioning, even if it's partially because it's too young to tell?
That was a tough question. Yeah. I didn't know I was on like Leno show tonight. That it's one of those things, like, do you know they have your best interest in mind? And like, what is the relationship? What is the market is another thing. Like, if it's and are you taking their advice is another thing. I have also seen, sometimes where people are playing it a little safe and they don't want to like expand or do some new things, so they start getting kind of the same results. But that one's that's like a loaded one question.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because it's really hard to tell, like, without knowing what's kind of been going on. I would say, as long as they're always coming to you and reporting, okay, this is what's going on, and you have a good understanding that they are moving the needle and they're trying to move the needle, and just making sure that everything's copacetic on that side of things. When I worry about organizations is when they say, like, okay, I've spent this amount of money and I haven't seen any results in 6 months. I don't know what's going on with my marketing. No one communicates what's going on, or I haven't seen anything. Like, that's when it's like, okay, maybe look for a new provider or express that you need more communication. I think that's the only really way to answer that without.
No, that's a really good answer. It's starting to give people an idea, because you're right. It could be on the fault of the client who's maybe not following through on things that they said they would. And it could be, a piece of maybe the communication is poor and they're looking for more communication of what's actually happening with that money. So that was a great answer. You're good.
Okay, cool.
So in terms too of how much the client should be investing, not just financially, if I'm coming in and thinking, well, now that I'm hired a marketer, I don't need to do anything. What's kind of still the time commitment or the amount that the client's still going to be putting in terms of marketing? Is that really dependent on the job as well?
Yeah, that really depends on the agency or what kind of partnership you're working with. For us at Bubble Up, it's like you do the strategy session and then we do quarterly business reviews with you. And we do monthly as well. It really just depends on how much work is getting done. But realistically, you shouldn't have to do too much other than, your concepts and stuff like that. And if your business structure is already all there and, I don't think there's too much of a time commitment. I think on ours, it's probably, I would say, like 4 hours, 8 hours for the year of like actual their time commitment. Our strategy sessions are done. It takes about a month to complete. We start with a 2-hour kind of information gathering, basically learning all about your business, how important you guys are in your industry, and talk about all the basics of kind of just like what do you guys like to do, how would the world miss you if you guys went out of business tomorrow? How would you explain your business to a 5-year-old? and because a lot of companies too, like they really like to use like technical jargon, and you got to look at it like there are people that are going to come to your site that have absolutely no idea what it is that you do, and if you're explaining it to them in journeyman technology terms, it's like I still have no idea what you do. So you want to make it so kind of simple while still hitting all of your key points. And so that's kind of that whole 2-hour block is just like really dialing in who you are. And then there's another hour meeting where we do a temperature check just to make sure that we're all aligned on what that looks like. And then your final presentation hour. So that's about a 4-hour commitment over a month. And then 1 hour every 3 months to go through like business objectives, making sure that we're on track to complete. Like if someone comes to us and they're like, hey, we want 100% growth over the next 2 years. Well, it's like every quarter we need to make sure we're moving the needle or we're not going to hit that target, right? So it's always going to be about communicating that and then them coming to us like, oh, hey, we have this new product offering, and then just kind of getting ingrained in their business. So it's like they have an in-house marketer, right? But they don't have to pay someone's salary. And if they want to change or move into a different avenue, they don't have to look for another person that has those skill sets. And I think that's kind of the one benefit to agencies. I shouldn't say the one benefit, but like the biggest benefit is that they'll always have like someone on staff that does a certain specific role, like SEO development or Facebook, so that if you need to move your pivot, then it can still be done by that organization, and you don't need to look for new talent.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So, because it's kind of come up a couple times, and I'm sure some people are curious. You talked at the beginning about when you're recruiting your person or looking for them and kind of getting some of their hard results and what that actually looks like. What is the percentage you would expect to get back from your money? Like, let's say I want to do $500 a month. What's like a good range? I know it's going to differ. I know it's going to, but I do like marketing's paying for itself, right? And extra.
You should be breaking even at the bare minimum. If it's brand new, it's like, you probably have 6 to 12 months before you'll start seeing some, serious results. But that's again, also another one of those questions where I tie it back to the business, and it's like, okay, what's the closer? What's the systems that they have in place already to take advantage of the marketing? And that's why like that sales system kind of stuff has to get done first. because it's really important so that you don't go out and spend money on marketing that, maybe you get overwhelmed by clients, you get too many leads, and then then all of a sudden people are like, oh, this guy doesn't respond to me, etc. So it's really kind of finding that balance, and a lot of it's trial and error, and that's why I think marketing is so fluid. And building trust with an organization that knows, like, hey, we're going to have your best interest in mind and take you through this tumultuous road so that we can end out where you want to be. So it's really about like that, setting objectives and making sure that they're concrete, and then managing expectations.
Yeah. So someone's not going to come to you and say, I'm going to give you $500 a month and I expect $1 million back.
Exactly, right? Because I would just be like, you should take your $500 to somewhere else. And I wish you the best luck with that. But I think, ROI is one of those things that's really, really hard to measure from just like a throw out a number perspective. Once you've worked with a client for 3 to 6 months, you can start seeing the trends of what that would look like. And cost for acquisition of a client, and then now okay, what's the lifetime value of that client as well? That's another great question to ask, because then it's like, okay, it costs me $300 to get a client, but their lifetime value is $9,000. It doesn't seem like that much money, right? Even if only in the first year you don't actually see any return on it, it's like maybe you're not seeing a return until year 2 or year 3. But as long as you do your part, that cost per acquisition is actually relatively cheap.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So we are starting to come to the end here. Are there any other points that you wanted to share with people that are really important to watch out for this? I know you potentially had a graphic, but I feel we've covered a lot here, and want to make it not too overwhelming here.
I mean, I'm good without going through the graphic. But I think it's mainly find someone that you can trust, that you have seen results for, and that's really all it is. I know it's not like the best advice, but it really comes down to trusting the experience and knowing that this is a partnership. It's not like a one-off. I'm gonna spend $500 and I want 200 leads. It's kind of like, hey, develop something with someone in an organization that kind of has the skills to deliver on kind of your overall vision, and trust them, work through the process, and trust the process, because I think a lot of times marketing is a lot like a hockey stick. It starts off like this and goes and goes and goes, and then all of a sudden you just get it right, and then it kind of takes off. A really good example of this is like in Good to Great. One of the comparisons they have is Microsoft and Apple, and he actually said that Apple kind of failed, but Apple really nailed in who they were and who they really wanted to attract. And now reading that, you're like, what do you mean?
I think they figured it out.
But a lot of it too is also like taking that extra step and trying things that push you to your comfort level, where it's like, maybe I don't know how that would work, but it's like, try it. Because if Steve Jobs had stopped at the iPod, we wouldn't have the iPhone, the iPad, like you name it. If he was just like, that's fine, I like music, technology would be completely different today.
Okay. So really taking the time for that trust, it sounds like, because if you're going to be committing for at least 6 months, but hopefully long term, making sure that this is definitely someone you can trust. Probably experience in the field you're in would be part of that too. People that haven't worked with only a certain field and you're coming in completely new to them.
Or as long as they have a process too for like kind of extracting your knowledge, that's a big thing, right? Like, it's like, how are they working with you? Because if it's just like, hey, I want to run some Google ads for you, I run Google ads, that's when you could potentially run into some of those, like, get 150 leads for dirt cheap, but then they're not really qualified, or there's a lot more work that goes into those leads. It's really about building that relationship so that they understand your business and you understand that that they're kind of working towards you, and always metrics of like setting up how you guys are keeping track of your overall objectives. You know, if it's and I kind of touched on all the key metrics I think I would look out for. So
yeah, and I think those are great. This has been super helpful. And hopefully for anyone out there that's watching that hasn't hired a marketer yet, now has a better idea of what to look for, or is somewhere in this process and looking for a little more support from who they have hired. This was just great information. Thank you so much for being here, Mathew.
No problem. And you know, if anyone in Alberta is looking for a great marketing agency, Bubble Up Marketing Design. My name is Mathew, and I think my information is going to be somewhere.
It'll be in the comment section after the video, so you can go click on it and connect. And Mathew's just a great resource. Even our first conversation was super, super helpful and full of information. So I certainly recommend people reach out and say hi.
Thank you so much, Leah. I appreciate this. This was fun.
It was super fun. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.